All righty. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight's abortion access organizing call. We're excited to have so many folks on the line who are committed to protecting abortion access here in Michigan. My name is Jessica Ayub, and I am the public engagement strategist at the ACLU of Michigan, and I will be one of your presenters tonight. I am also joined by my ACLU colleague, Marissa Kovac, and our partners at Planned Parenthood, Amanda West and Hoyan. We are going to go over a few housekeeping items and the agenda for tonight's call before we kick things off. So hang tight. So first things first, if you want to join this call with your video, please do. We love seeing your faces. There is a camera icon on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to click that and join via video. If you're just on the phone, that is okay too. Everything that we've got on the slides and that we've got on the screen will also be repeated verbally, so you won't be missing anything. You are all on mute, and that's on purpose. We want to make sure that we're minimizing as much background noise as possible. But if you've got a question and you are on your computer, feel free to pop that into the chat box, and we will make sure to answer that there. If you are just joining by phone, press 1 on your keypad and it'll let us know. And we can then also unmute you and you can ask your question. We are going to have a Q&A portion during this call tonight. So if you've got any questions about anything we're saying, pop those into the chat box, or again, press 1 on your phone, and we will make sure to get those answered when we hit the Q&A portion. And finally, we are going to send a recording of the call tomorrow once we wrap up. So anything you hear tonight, we will be sure to reiterate in a follow-up email tomorrow. And finally, tonight's call is going to last about an hour. We are going to start with the state of abortion in Michigan, and then we will talk a little bit about what's happening with abortion access. We'll dive into our strategy to secure access to abortion in Michigan. And then to close out, we will talk about what you can do in your own communities to fight back. At the end of the call, we're going to end again with a Q&A where you can ask us anything. But now we are going to kick things off, and I am going to pass it over to my colleagues, Marissa and Amanda, who will outline the current threats to abortion in Michigan. And first up is Marissa.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, everyone. This is Marissa Kovac, policy strategist at the ACLU of Michigan. I am going to give you a rundown on the state of abortion care in Michigan. So Roe v. Wade protects our right to abortion. That means a person can get an abortion and has a constitutional right to do so up until viability. Unfortunately, the makeup of the Supreme Court right now is leaning conservative, which means Roe v. Wade could be overturned or gutted as soon as this year. If Roe is overturned, Michigan abortion rights will be subject to a near complete ban on abortion. So we're in a pretty perilous state right now and a pretty bad position. Even with Roe, though, Michigan has been chipping away at abortion access for years. We have been creating, our state legislature has been creating a web of barriers that stand between a patient and the care that they need. Just a few examples. In Michigan, a person seeking an abortion is subject to a mandatory 24-hour waiting period prior to being able to receive abortion. Pregnant people under the age of 18 must receive parental consent to receive an abortion. And just a few years ago, the Michigan legislature passed a law that bans private insurance from covering abortion care. Earlier this year, the Michigan House of Representatives and the Senate both introduced bills that would criminalize a very safe method of abortion. That's the standard of care for many people who need an abortion at 14 or 15 weeks of pregnancy. This is called a dilation and evacuation, or a D&E procedure. What these bills do is it would force doctors to provide care in a manner that's dictated by politicians, even if they think it's inappropriate for their patients. And if they do perform this method of abortion, they are at risk of being punished with a 2-year felony. So we oppose these laws because every single person needs to be able to make their own decisions about their health care without interference from certain politicians. And a person's health, not politics, should be guiding these important medical care decisions at every single point in pregnancy. So this ban is also unconstitutional. It flies in the face of Supreme Court precedent that has held that a ban on the most commonly used method of abortion care is unconstitutional. So that's what we're looking at right now, what we're looking at, what we've been dealing with in Michigan, and what we're going to be looking at in the near future. And I'm going to kick it over to my counterpart at Planned Parenthood, Amanda West.
Hey everyone, it's Amanda West. I am the Director of Government Relations at Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan, and I am thrilled to be on the phone with you all on this cold January evening. Let's talk about what happens next. We know that Governor Whitmer has promised to veto any bills that restrict abortion access, period. However, her pledge to do this has prompted an anti-abortion group, Right to Life of Michigan, to move forward with a citizen initiative. In Michigan, a group can initiate legislation if they collect the required number of signatures, which is around, for this year, 360,000 signatures. After they're collected and submitted, the proposed bill goes in front of the legislature, which has 40 days to act. The legislature then has 3 options: to vote in favor of the bill, vote against it, or do nothing. If they vote against it or do nothing, the bill goes on the ballot at the next election, and voters choose whether or not the legislation becomes law. However, we know that Right to Life and the anti-choice leaders in both the House and the Senate have publicly declared that they will vote in favor of this law, therefore bypassing the governor's signature and the chance for voters across Michigan to vote against this ban. So in late December, right before the holidays kicked off, Right to Life of Michigan submitted their required signatures. And right now we are waiting for the Bureau of Elections to review the signatures and to determine whether or not those signatures are valid. We at Planned Parenthood are also leading an effort to review those signatures. We'll be doing the same review that the Bureau of Elections is doing to ensure that the signatures that Right to Life submitted are all valid and that the folks who signed the petition are actually registered voters, and that those signatures were collected in a lawful way. So that's what we are looking at moving forward. I'm going to kick this over to my colleague, Bayan, who is going to fill you in on this strategy about how we're going to fight back.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm also excited to see so many people on the call tonight. So yeah, like Amanda was saying, once Right to Life signatures have been certified, the legislator has 40 days to act. So if they vote no or do nothing, it will go on to the ballot. And research has really shown us that our chance for victory is at the ballot box. Voters are overwhelmingly supporting access to abortion, and we're really confident that if given the chance, we will win in November 2020. So these 40 days and even before is our window to act, and we will be targeting legislatures who we think are vulnerable, and with pressure from their constituents will vote no. And there are 15 legislators that we need to convince. And this is our opportunity to tell the legislature that we do not support restricting abortion access, and that we need them to listen to the folks who elected them. And if the Michigan legislature does vote for the method ban and it becomes law, then the ACLU of Michigan is prepared to mount a legal challenge because it is unconstitutional. Laws like this have been challenged a number of times in states across the country over the past. And so far, we have largely been successful in having them struck down in the courts. In the past 4 years, however, while these successes have been encouraging, there is no guarantee that we can continue to rely on the courts to protect a person's right to choose. So now I'm going to pass it back to Jessica to talk about what we can all do, what you could be doing to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hoyan. We are really encouraged and grateful to see so many folks who are invested in helping us fight back against these unconstitutional bans, and are excited to outline for you all the opportunities to, excuse me, take action with us. First things first, join the ACLU of Michigan and Planned Parenthood. Joining both of these organizations help us continue developing these strong strategies to fight back against these abortion restrictions. Secondly, you can email your legislator. Let them know that you oppose the method ban and encourage them to vote no when it comes in front of them. And finally, join us for a lobby day in Lansing on Wednesday, February 12th, and meet with your legislators in person. These meetings are the most effective way for us to tell our legislators to vote no. And don't worry, we will be sending out lobby day registration information in an email later this week, along with the recording of this webinars. And now, we want to know who among you is going to take action with us. So if you are joining from your computer, we want you to take the poll that we've got popping up on your screen in just a second when I figure out my technology. There we go. I just launched it. Sorry about that. So if you are on your computer, we want to know if you are going to join the ACLU of Michigan and Planned Parenthood. Please indicate that on the poll. If you're on your phone, press 1 on your phone and let us know that you are joining the ACLU of Michigan and Planned Parenthood. We will also pop those links in the chat box so that you can find those super easy as well. Now, if you're going to email your legislator, press 2 or click on the action alert that will pop in the chat box. Wow, these results are very encouraging. We've got about an even split of folks who are going to be joining the ACLU of Michigan and emailing their legislator, which is very exciting. Now, if you're going to head to Lansing with us, let us know by pressing the poll on your phone or pressing 3 on your keypad. And if you're doing it all, we also want to know that. So press 4 on your phone or fill that out on the poll. Wow. Looks like we have got close to 60% of the folks on this call who are committed to taking action with us. 60% of you all are going to be emailing your legislator. Half of the folks on this call are joining the ACLU of Planned Parenthood. We've got about a quarter of the folks on the call who are coming to the lobby day, and just shy of 50% who are going to be doing all 3 of these actions. We are incredibly excited about that, and we will be sure to follow up with all of you with more information about how to take action. So now we have been, my colleague Alistair has been monitoring the chat box, and we have got some great questions lined up. So if you've got questions, pop those into the chat box right now, and we are going to start answering those. So this first question, I'm gonna give to Amanda to answer. Amanda, I'm gonna unmute you. I promise it's an easy one. So the question for Amanda is, in the past, what strategies or persuasive tactics have swayed legislatures, and who are the lawmakers that we need to convince?
Sure. Am I successfully unmuted?
Yes, you are good.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. So the tactics that have worked and what we repeatedly hear from legislators of what they want to hear are your voices. They want to hear from you at lobby day. They want to hear from you on the phone. They particularly want you to come to their local events. So look up your legislators, find who your House and Senate members are. And if you need help doing that, reach out to any one of us that are on the list. Our emails are listed on the screen right now, and we can help you do that. And go to one of their local events. They're all doing coffee hours. They're doing community events, and attend those and let them know how you feel. That is the single biggest request that we get from legislators, is to show up, show your support, and show your support in front of rooms full of others too, because that makes them more comfortable in their position as well. So that's the single best way to sway them, is to actually reach out to them and talk to them, or show up in their office to the extent that you can. The legislators that we're needing to contact, they're a mix of choice champions and those that are Republicans that are in districts that are more pro-choice than they are. So there's a long list of them. We're right around 15. I think that if you're able to sign up for lobby day, we can help direct you to those. But even more, I would say all legislators need to hear from us. And that's why this action alert is so important. Whether your legislator is in a deep blue district, I'm looking at you, Ann Arbor. If your legislator is in a deep red district elsewhere in the state, they still need to hear from us, because it's important that they're hearing that there's overwhelming opposition to a ban on the D&E method. So make sure you're reaching out to all of them, and the specific ones are those that we know will be in tight races in the coming weeks and months, and so those are some folks that we need to be looking at as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. Hopefully that answered your question, Stuart. This next one is coming from Emily Beth. Emily is letting us know that she had a D&E procedure this year and wants to lend her voice for to the fight for abortion access. She had a wanted pregnancy that she had to terminate. So Emily, thank you so much for sharing that with us in the group. First and foremost, we really appreciate your vulnerability in doing that. And she wants to know what the best thing she can do is to use her experience to fight for other women, because she is busy on lobby day. So I'm going to kick that over to Marissa.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I just want to echo, thanks so much for your bravery. And I'm so terribly sorry with what you went through. Storytelling is one of the most powerful forms of advocacy on this issue, and there are so many ways that you can advocate by sharing your voice and the value that that voice brings to the table. And it doesn't matter if you're busy on lobby day. Between Amanda and I, we work in the legislature, and if you're interested in sharing your story with someone in the legislature, we can help you do that one-on-one on your own time. There are communications opportunities if you want to share your story through a blog. If you'd like to share your story with other people, that's something that if this is of interest to you, Amanda and I can reach out to you after this call, and we can talk about all of the options to get you involved in this fight.
Thank you, Marissa. So we have got a few questions about sample emails to our legislators. So just a quick explainer on what our action alert system is. That is actually, if you click on that link, that we're going to send out, or that we will populate in the chat box. If you click directly on that link, it'll populate a sample email to your legislator. All you have to do is fill in your information about where you live, and it will send that directly to your legislator. So the language will be there for a sample script. Feel free to copy that, amend it as you see fit, and we will make sure that you that your message gets to the legislature as quickly as possible. So we try to make it as simple as possible for you. Okay, and so this next question This is actually from one of our volunteers, Ann Lewis. Just got a message for everyone that I just want to repeat. Hi, everyone. Ann here from Detroit. I've been protesting at the Capitol in Lansing every Tuesday, and I encourage people to join me. Happy to share times, etc., with the group. So thank you, Ann, for that lovely offer. I will connect with Ann after this call and make sure I get those times with her so we can include those in the follow-up email. So next question, I am gonna kick this to Marissa. What is your current estimated breakdown of the legislature regarding the likelihood to reject or support the initiative and those who are likely undecided?
Yeah, absolutely. And then when I finish up, I invite Amanda to chime in case I miss anything. Unfortunately, with the we're not in a great position. Earlier this year, both the House and the Senate respectively voted on this method ban, this ban on the D&E procedure that we talked about earlier in the call, and they both passed each of their own respective bills on party line votes. So in order to flip this and have this go our way and block the ban from going into effect, we will need to persuade 4 state senators or 4 state representatives to switch their position on it. And that's really where you come into play. You have the strongest voice on this issue, and there are legislators that are vulnerable, that know that this is not a popular position in their constituency, and if they hear from enough of their constituents, they might be persuaded to switch their position. So right now, we're not in a great position, but if we can generate enough support and raise our voices loud enough and reach out to enough of these vulnerable legislators that should not be voting for this because it's not right, it's not popular with their constituency, we do have a chance here.
Yep, I think that was great. Thanks, Marissa. Amanda, anything to add?
I don't know. That was exactly spot on.
Awesome, perfect. Well, because this next one is for you. So Carly is asking, if the laws pass, it will go into effect in 60 days, correct? Would the legal challenge likely take years, all the while the D&E law would be in effect? And a follow-up question, how do we prevent more restrictive legislation from being voted and using the citizens' initiative in the future? And is the legislature close to being flipped in Michigan? So kind of a lot to unpack there.
That was like a 15-part question. Okay, let's break it down. For the first part, if the law is passed, it'll go into effect in 60 days. Yes-ish. So it will go, if the legislature does vote on it, then it will go into effect 60 days, 90 days after sine die, which is the Latin term for when session ends in 2020. So we'd be looking at the law going into effect in March of 2021. Is it 60 or 90 days? I need to check my notes. It's one of those two. So again, we're looking at the law going to effect in 2021. How long would the legal challenge take is $1 million question. We have seen in some states where the laws have been challenged, judges have implemented injunctions, meaning that the law cannot go into effect while the issue is being settled in the courts. Sometimes those injunctions don't happen. So that would be up to the court and the judge to decide about whether the law could go into effect. What we do know is that in every state that this law has been legally challenged, where it has been passed and then challenged, the courts have implemented injunctions and then actually overturned the laws. So that's why we know that this is a very unconstitutional law. And so we are hoping that once the challenge takes place, then we would have injunctive relief and be able to work through the courts. As the follow-up, how do we prevent more restrictive legislation? Using the citizens' drive in the future, that is a very good question. Michigan is one of very few states that allows this process to take place, that allows the legislature to have this intervention in the citizens' drive, meaning many states allow citizens to initiate legislation and put it on the ballot. Michigan is one of only maybe a couple that allows the legislature to intervene in that process. I do believe it would have to be removed from our Constitution. And I'm not exactly sure the process of that, but we can do some research and follow up about how we would go about doing that. Or Marissa, if you've got more information, please feel free to jump in.
No, I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then if the legislature close to being flipped in Michigan, I sure hope so. Here's the work we have in front of us. We've got, we have to gain 4 seats to have a pro-choice majority in 2020. So that's what we're all going to be working our butts off for the next several months. And that's why we need you all to hit 1 and join us as members so that we can all work together to do that.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So I'm going to kick this next one to Hoyan. We have got some incredibly brave folks sharing their stories in the chat box and want to know how they can get involved. Hoyan, I know that Planned Parenthood does quite a bit of great story collection work, and so I was hoping you could fill folks in on opportunities to engage that way.
Yeah, and I'm reading through some of the comments right now, and the stories everybody has sound great. All of this sounds super in line with a lot of the work that we do. So at Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan, we do a lot of storytelling trainings, a lot of storytelling events, and we also do have a National Storytellers Bureau. And actually coming up in Michigan, we are going to be hosting storytelling trainings across the state in at least 6 locations. So stay tuned for those updates. And those are really going to be a place for you all, and including myself, for all of us to be learning more about how to be kind of digging into who we are, what makes us who we are, what makes us fight so hard for reproductive justice, and be able to use that to really create change, to be pushing our legislatures, to be building relationships with other community members, and really helping to build a really powerful movement. So for those of you who are interested in getting involved in that way, definitely please contact me, and I'd love to help get you connected to some of that work that's going on in your area.
Awesome. Thank you, Hoyan. This is also for you as well, and I think I know the answer, but is Planned Parenthood still looking for volunteers to help sift through those right to life petition signatures to check for validity?
Hey, it's Amanda. I can jump in
Amanda,
on that
I'm
one.
going to kick that out to you.
No, that's okay. No worries at all. Yeah, so I think we have sufficient number of volunteers to help us with that. But if you have a particular interest and you have particular experience with the VAN, which is the Voter Activation Network, and seem pretty savvy in that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I'd be happy to help connect you with that. We're looking for some highly skilled volunteers that might be able to help us, but we already have a great pool to work from. So thank you for the question.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. So this next question I'm going to pitch to Marissa. And the question is, we've gotten this a couple of times throughout the chat, and folks are wondering if we could launch a citizens initiative to reverse this.
Yeah, that certainly is a possibility that's on the table. If or when this is passed into law, fingers crossed it doesn't get to that point, but if it is passed into law, citizens do have the right to bring a referendum and collect signatures to challenge the law and put it on the ballot. So there are some groups in Michigan that are looking at that as a strategy, because that's a strategy that remains open and is a right of the citizens in Michigan.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa. So we have got some questions about membership to ACLU national versus ACLU local, national Planned Parenthood versus local Planned Parenthood. So I can answer about what membership looks like from the ACLU side, and then I will have Amanda and Hoyan fill in about what Planned Parenthood membership looks like. So when you join the national ACLU, you are also joining the state ACLU, or if you join directly through Michigan, you also become a member of the national network of ACLU members and supporters. Here in Michigan, we've got about 40,000 members, which is pretty remarkable considering pre-2016, we were at about 9,000 members. And if you join the organization and join us as a volunteer, we host regular and ongoing volunteer trainings that are skill-based. So we will conduct trainings that are potentially, it could be a canvassing training. As Hoyan mentioned, Planned Parenthood does storytelling trainings. ACLU might replicate something similar. We can train you on phone banking, train you on how to talk to your legislator. We can do some general issue training. It really depends on the campaign we're working on and the skills that our volunteers are asking us for. And now I want to kick it back to my friends at Planned Parenthood to talk about what membership with Planned Parenthood looks like.
Sure, I can take a first stab at it. It's Amanda, because we always just have to be difficult. Ours looks a little different than the ACLU's, but the membership means a little different too. So our national membership is something free that you can sign up for. There's no need to donate anything, but our state membership is different. Our state membership requires a $10 donation to Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan. That goes to all of our advocacy work. That's one of the opportunities for becoming a member. But even further, members of Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan are deeply involved in our electoral work. That means that we are working directly with campaigns and candidates, helping them with very specific and detailed canvassing and phone banks, and working directly with them on their campaigns, showing up to their events wearing pink t-shirts. So our membership is actually a little bit more electoral in nature. We're also able to communicate specific electoral messages to our members that others that we do not communicate to, publicly, because they are our paid members. So we are able to work in a little bit different way there and be a little more, or be quite strategic in the way that we're helping some of these campaigns. So our memberships are very different, and they are complicated, and ours actually is going to take $10 out of your wallet, but I promise that it's quite worth it, and we will work together. I saw a couple of questions, how are we, what are our priorities, and how are we going to make these changes? It's this exact work. We're going to use all of our data and research and polling and working with all of our partners to find exactly where the work that we're doing is most needed on these campaigns, and we're going to be laser focused and very strategic in deciding how we are going to be helping specific campaigns to help get us that pro-choice majority at the end of the year. And not to mention helping out a few other candidates that also could use our help. And we've got some important congressional races we're looking at. We've got one critically important U.S. Senate race that we'll be prioritizing, along with some judicial races, some local races. So we've got a lot on our plate, and we need quite a bit of help.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So I do want to acknowledge we have got tons and tons of interest in this chat about the lobby day on February 12th. So we are going to send out more information and a link to register, including details about the time of day in our follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that, and we promise we will make sure you've got all the info ahead of lobby day. Oh gosh, lots more final questions coming in. So, yeah, so first we are going to kick it to Marissa, who is going to outline a little bit about the legal challenge and what that will look like if this does go into effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So if this does become law, like I mentioned earlier in the call, it's unconstitutional. It flies in the face of Supreme Court precedent that's held that a ban on the most commonly used method of abortion, which is this D&E procedure, is unconstitutional. Along with that, it creates an undue burden for a person to access abortion care. It is in violation of a recent Supreme Court case, Whole Woman's Health v. Hellerstedt, that said that if a state legislature passes a policy that limits access to abortion care, there has to be a good medical reason for doing so, and that they need to be able to back that up with facts. And in this case, there's nothing about this policy that is medically necessary. It's only meant to make abortion less safe. It would ban a standard of care and would force physicians to practice against their best judgment. So this is a violation of the undue burden standard. And we feel like we have a pretty strong case there. And Amanda mentioned also in some previous comments that where we have seen this passed in states across the country, in every single case we have challenged it, and we have seen every single court block it from going into effect while litigation can proceed, or in a couple of cases, federal courts have found it to be unconstitutional. So we think we are as well positioned as possible to challenge this in court if it's passed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marissa. So Rena's got a great question that I am hoping to do justice to, but Amanda, Hoyan, and Marissa, jump in when I miss something. So she is asking, in Michigan, there are 3 ways to use a citizen's initiative. One is a referendum on legislation. The second way is to initiate new legislation. And the third way is a constitutional amendment. And her question is, which of these are strategically the best tool for us to use to assure the future right to choose? Depending on who you ask, they'll give you a different answer on which is the best method. But right now, Michigan has a constitutional ban on abortion, which means no. Marissa's gonna jump in.
Yeah, right now we have a outdated law in the books a really outdated law in the books that criminalizes virtually all abortion. It's unconstitutional right now because of Roe v. Wade. But if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned, that old, outdated, unconstitutional ban that we have on the books would become law again. And Michigan would immediately be positioned as a state that criminalizes virtually all abortion access. So that's just one factor that we're looking at. So I think going back to your question on what's the best method to secure abortion access, there are a lot of strategies that we could look at. And I think some of the best minds that we've been talking to are still evaluating that. But certainly a constitutional amendment is what could protect abortion care. Definitely in Michigan, it would make Michigan a hospitable state to reproductive rights, and it would protect the state if Roe v. Wade were to be overturned or gutted. But I also I think I just want to check to see with Amanda if she wants to add anything to that too. I think, there's a lot of strategies at play and a lot of strategies that need to be implemented all at once at the same time in order to fight this right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. A constitutional amendment is one path forward. In other states across the nation, we have seen legislatures put into law a constitution or a right to an abortion or a right to privacy in various states. So that could be another strategy for Michigan, especially after 2022 when we have non-gerrymandered districts. I think that that's something that we can point to. All of the restrictions that we have on abortion over the last 10 and 20 years are courtesy of the crazy districts that we have here in Michigan. That is not just me saying that. That can be pointed to through all sorts of research, and then pointed to through the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, millions that voted to stop gerrymandering here in this state. And I think that the effects that that will have, that will allow the state's actual pro-choice state status. We know that Michigan is a very pro-choice state, to shine through their districts, and we'll be able to elect people that represent our values, and then hopefully those values then will be represented in the laws that are being made. So that is another strategy. We've seen other states have their Supreme Courts rule and make decisions based on the state constitution. That could be another strategy for us moving forward. Our Supreme Court has not made any sort of decision or ruling on the legality of abortion here in Michigan. But then again, that points to the importance of us focusing on judicial races and ensuring that our Supreme Court reflects our values as well. So a lot of different strategies. I don't know that anybody would say which one is the best one. I think that we need to look at all of them very seriously.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. And I do just want to add a finer point, or not a finer point, but I just want to add that, you know, when a group wants to seek out a citizens initiative, you want to be like almost 150% sure that you're going to win, and that the political climate is ripe for you to win, so that we're not undoing years and years of good work. So next question we've got is from Rebecca, and I will have either Amanda or Marissa answer this one. And it is, so how does the D&E procedure work, and why are they targeting this method of abortion?
Amanda, do you want to take that?
I can-ish, but only first by stating I'm not a physician. So I'm probably not the right person to talk about any specifics of an abortion method. I've seen a couple different folks comment in here about D&Es that they've had and some of the procedure there. I personally have not had a D&E, so I can't speak to that. I can, though, talk about why this is a political target for Right to Life. We have seen them target abortion in a way that is deliberate and that seeks to curb access in a series of different like cuts, right? So it's not wholesale banning abortion, but trying to reduce access to abortion by taking it away pieces at a time, right? So we've seen trap laws, we've seen abortion bans that a ban at maybe they're gestational bans, maybe they're trying to do 20-week bans or 15-week bans or 6-week bans. We've seen them try to ban methods. We've seen them try to curb access by reducing ability for people to utilize insurance. So this is part of an overall strategy by anti-choice legislators and donors and others across the nation to make abortion go away in various states. So I think that this is the one of the things that they haven't actually banned in Michigan. So this is part of a strategy to try to do that. The only thing I'll mention about the D&E ban is that it is something. It's an abortion procedure that is used later in pregnancy, and I think that is something that the anti-choice group also thinks that they can take advantage of. So again, it's just trying to do this in parts that will strategically work to ban abortion, just not in all one fell swoop, while they're still trying to do that as well. But this has been a long-term plan by our opposition.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary Jo has a question that I will try and take a stab at. She is asking, have you considered airing ads featuring Republican women, Catholic women, etc., who favor abortion rights? We need people to debunk the stance by the GOP, who are mostly men, who claim that their constituents want abortion outlawed. And so what I think, Mary Jo, you're getting at the crux of this question is, how are we showing that the majority of Michiganders support access to abortion? And it's really the heart of our strategy moving forward. Talk to your friends and neighbors and folks and get them to talk to their legislators. Bring them to Lansing with you on lobby day so that your legislators can see the faces of the folks who support access to abortion and who support reproductive freedom. Yeah, that's what I've got on that. Alrighty, so I think we've got time for one more question if you want to pop that into the, oh wait, we do have a good one. Hang on, I'm reading it real quick before I trip over my words. So this is actually a great question, and I will. We're gonna throw it to Hoyan and Amanda to answer. The question is, has anyone spoken to anti-abortion activists or anti-choice activists, or someone who is anti-choice and heard their arguments? What's the crux of their arguments? And if there are multiple arguments, what strategies have encouraged an open dialogue?
I can take this unless Amanda, did you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as Planned Parenthood, we do have a no engagement policy. And what that means is that oftentimes, you know, if we're at an event and we have protesters who are coming up to us, who are trying to talk to us, we often don't engage with them at that moment. And it isn't because we don't feel prepared to talk to them, or we don't feel like, or we feel like we just don't want to engage with them in general. It's because oftentimes those conversations in those specific settings don't become very productive. There's nothing that comes out of those conversations. I think that at the end of the day, people who are anti-choice are really not seeing what we see, which is abortion is healthcare, and Planned Parenthood really believes in care no matter what. No matter who you are, no matter what your gender is, no matter where you come from, socioeconomic status, immigration status, that is something that we feel strongly about. And so for the people who are anti-choice, the same way that people, I mean, obviously not the same equivalence, but people are pro-choice for a variety of reasons, for a variety of passions. You know, for me personally, a lot of my own views come from being a first-generation American and being raised by a single parent. And I guess there's no really summary of, for me, I think, of people who are anti-choice, besides the very clear difference that I've always encountered is that they are not centering the people who need to receive care. They don't have those same values. And so to me, I think that that is the most important thing, is in our fight, is making sure that we just continue to center care no matter what, and really take a hard look at making sure that we keep holding ourselves to what that means, and really make sure that we're applying it to everybody.
Awesome, thanks, Hoyan. So we have got our final question, which is from Georgina and echoed by so many. How will we get the names and districts of the representatives you've identified as vulnerable? Fantastic question. We will, again, include that in your follow-up email, which is now going to be quite the narrative. So before we end, we want to remind you all of the ways that y'all can take action. That first one is join the ACLU of Michigan and Planned Parenthood. Links are on the screen or in the chat box. We'll also circulate those after. Contact your lawmakers via the action alert. Again, that action alert is gonna directly populate a message that you can send to your lawmakers. All you have to do is fill in your information and it'll send directly to them. And finally, join us in Lansing on Wednesday, February 12th, and meet with your legislators in person and let them know that you support access to abortion. So we want to thank you all again so much for joining us tonight. I'm incredibly encouraged by how many folks joined us and by the conversation that was happening in the chat box tonight. And we are looking forward to working with you all over the next few months. Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you all again soon.